Okay, it's my honor to introduce our first keynote speaker. His Excellency Mr. Maher Al Kaabi, board member Al Kaabi Group, a distinguished Emirati business leader whose insights into innovation and sustainability have shaped many successful enterprises in the Gulf. So,
It's working as well, yes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a really pleasure to be here. I'm just trying to look for my clicker. Where's my clicker? Do I use this? Okay. Prepared to show a presentation. Okay. So let's start. I think the gathering is very important to understand the cross-border collaboration, which is the key. But you know, whenever you think about cross-border, few things should come to our mind. And one of the important things to our mind is it is very challenging to do a cross-border collaboration. Why? Because there are different regulations between countries. Not easy to read them off. And of course, this distances also plays a bigger role as well. And then the other thing is the culture differences are also huge. So trust me, cross-border collaboration is not easy, and I will dwell into that because I work with our Minister of Foreign Trade, Dr. Thani Zuyubi. We travel with him to get things done. But what I would like to highlight and share, what made UAE reach to what here in about 54 years? We celebrate our independence on 2nd of January, we'll complete 54 years. So I will touch upon that. There are three key successes. I call them three, where do I put here? Right, okay, thank you. So there are three key pillars of the successes that we have achieved. The foundation of success, I call them number one. The mindset and the culture, it's very important to integrate because we're talking about countries collaborating together. And of course, one of the important things that a lot of people are starting to give importance to, which is digital transformation, which is also very, very important. Sorry. Do I point there? Ah, okay, great, excellent. Right. Right. And of course, we'll see what's the way forward for us to learn together. If you look at the foundation of success, there are many things which make the foundation of success very successful, but the four key things I put them into is our leadership, number one. Second is our community, how we are actually geographically based in the center of the universe, yetly. And of course the safety, which is very important, and the free zone that we have established. We'll go very quickly into each one of them, which is, yeah. Now, leadership, I think, is never enough for me to talk about leadership. When leadership started with the visionary leadership that we had, starting with the founding fathers of the country, His Highness 𝐶𝐶 bin Sultan Al Nahyan, and Sheikh Salah bin Said Al Maktoum, the ruler of the Waqf then, may Allah be pleased with the soul, they only thought about what UAE would look like. And you know, one of the main things Sheikh Zayed said, it's not about the tallest and the biggest and the most smartest and beautiest we made. It was all about making sure people are number one in terms of development. Until now, that continues, by the way. How do we make sure that we invest and reinvest on people development? Because people are behind of any success of any nations. And that's what they did all the time. I'll just share a few examples of what they did and thought of and what they have become as a reality today. The Jabal Ali port. How many of you actually based in UAE? Raise your hand. That's it? The remaining are from outside the country?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Excellent. So this is going to be touching. Jabal Ali Free Zone, His Highness actually ordered for this to be built started back in 1976. And this place used to be desert. This place from my city where I live in Dubai, it's about 70 kilometers. And then we used to live in actually Sharjah, which is another neighboring city. To reach the World Trade Center, which is the beginning of Dubai now, we call it, it used to be a massive challenge because there's a narrow road, but there's sand across it. Imagine reaching Jabal Ali. You know what his advisor said to him? Your Highness, what are you trying to do? Are you building a port in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere? Who's going to use it? You know what was his answer? He never got reluctant. He said, trust me, 20, 30 years from now, people will realize the value of that. And today, this is how it looks like. DP World is the largest world operator in terms of the penetration of the number of countries. They operate into 78 countries. They touched 80, but I think that's also progressing when we discuss with them. So, and they're second largest in terms of managing the capacity of it, which is managed in the TEU, which is 20-foot units like we call them. They manage about 88 million. Number one is 100 million. And of course, in a few years, they'll also surpass it. Another example I'll highlight, which is the of building the airport, 1959. Luckily, nobody said not to build the airport, and that took the place of the here because everybody wanted an airport. If you look at the picture on the left side, this is the aerial view of the airport. It was only single line and compacted with sand, as you can see. And how many flew Emirates? Tell me, Dubai airports? Where, Baba, the rest of you? Yeah. No? Very few of you raising hand. You came from the Tihad or what? Dubai as well. But anyway, it's the same, complimentary. So today, Dubai Airport is one of the finest airports. If you look at it, it is ranked #1 internationally in terms of international passengers. 92.3 million last year. And this year will also pass that record as well. And every year we'll be breaking that record. From just an idea and a concept. The Emirates Airline started with only $100,000 back in 1984. When His Highness Sheikh Mohammed Rashid told Sheikh 𝐶𝐮𝐚𝐢'𝐶 to start with. So these are two key examples, but I can tell you examples are many. This is a short video clip telling you what Dubai Airport used to be, what is it today, and what's going to be in the future. It's just a minute and 24 seconds for you just to look at it, what's going to be the inspiration. Of course, all of you know, Russia is the vision behind Dubai. We're building the largest airport we can think of. The cost is humongous, $148 billion, which is $34 billion. It has 5 runways that I have, and 400 gates going to be there. Will actually take about capacity of 260 million of passengers in a year. We'll be using the latest technologies over there as well. We provide scanners, luggage scanner as a company to Dubai Airport. We'll be providing 3D scanners, which will make sure that tomorrow when you travel, you don't have to remove your electronics out of your bag, because the office will be able to do a 3D modeling. We always say this is where the future is built. So with Dubai Airport connecting people, enabling trades, that's going to be one of the important challenges that we have today. So this is how the vision will look like for Dubai Airport. The other important thing is how we are placed geographically. You know, within just 3 hours of flight, you're able to touch 1/3 of the world population. Why is it important? And within 8 hours of flight, you're able to touch 2/3 of the world population. Meaning, if you come and successfully set up your business over here, you're able actually to export your business and transform it and go to globality from here. You don't have to go anywhere else. Okay, so, and of course, during the COVID time, they started the center to enable that happen for, sorry. It's a silent video, I kept it silent for you just to look at it, what's happening. So one of the important things about trade, and Luto and His Excellency the Ambassador also talked about, you always heard about bilateral trade. Bilateral trade meaning, you know, how can we make sure that we work through the regulations that we have between two countries and make trade enabled. We actually surpassed that. We went a notch higher talking about CEPA, which is Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, which is beyond just the trade. It talks about FDIs and other investments that we bring about when we sign about it. We signed about 20 CEPA agreements with 20 countries already. And the growth that you see today is only because 7 got activated, only 1 got activated a month ago. So because of 6 got activated, and that's what we see the agreement going on. Of course, we're humbled enough that I sit on the UAE Investment International Council as a member, where it is chaired by His Excellency the Minister of Foreign Trade, Dr. 𝐶𝐮𝐚𝐢'𝐬. His day-to-day job is to make sure that we increase the trade with UAE. That's his KPI. And one of the visits we had with him was celebrating 1 year of CEPA signing with India. And why India mentioned this example, because if you know the challenges with signing a CEPA agreement, forget trade alone, but CEPA, it's very complicated. India has what, 97,000 tariff. That's huge. We have about 1,900, so much, much smaller. When you sign trade agreement, sometimes it takes a couple of years. And when you sign CEPA agreement, it will take double of that long because of making sure the trade barriers, the regulation you have, the trade tariffs you have, how do you overcome that? It took us only 4 months to do a CEPA agreement signing with India. That tells you how strong the leadership at both countries are working together. Imagine for 4 or 5 years, just 4 months. That's not a joke. That tells you we're very serious about making sure that Dubai is the hub and UAE is the hub for trade. And that's how it happened actually. Of course, we started another trade where we connect global leaders, bringing people over here to make sure, and we started with 3 key, I would say, sectors which are very important, 3 Fs, the fashion, food, and the furnitures. And of course, the phase 2, phase 3 also will come up from that perspective. And that leads me to my next point after trade is safety and stability. I got across to many countries because we go with the Dubai Chamber of Commerce, and what we do over there is open up trade barriers and eliminate them and make sure that we open up those trade dialogue. We have trade dialogue with them, and we go into a lot of forums. We've been doing this for the last 20 years with them. The last was in Nigeria, and what you realize over there, what's important is not only the safety of your investment alone, it's the safety of your physical safety is also very important. So safety for us is in all aspects. It's your investment safety, you're able to invest safely, nobody's gonna come and take over your business. That happens in some part of the world, you know the problem, and it happened to us as well. Safety of you and your family when you set up a business. Your health safety is also paramount. So for us, it's really paramount, the safety of all the aspects, and that's why UAE is very, very safe from that perspective, and UAE has been actually, overall, been ranked #1 when it comes to being the safest country in the world. Abu Dhabi, which is the capital, it is the safest city for the 9th consecutive year, globally talking about. In the top 5, there are 3 UAE cities over there. In the top 5, in the top 10, there are 5 UAE cities, which are the safest cities globally today. And that's why people are able to come and safely trade businesses for their investment economically and their personal safety. The other thing we established within the first vertical is the free zones establishment, because free zones are very important and paramount. We have about 23 free zones now, in different aspects you can think of, starting with Jebel Ali, which started really decades ago. Why? Because when you come over here, you want to think about your ownership. You need to have 100% ownership. So the free zones enables you to have that. You want to make sure that there's no corporate taxes or personal taxes. Free zones enable you that thing. And that, because of Jebel Ali free zones, we started having plethora, so many free zones, whether it's a science free zone, media free zone, Dubai Financial Center, which is financial free zone, which is the most important one globally today. The IFC just started 16, 18 years, 20 years ago, right? Today they're globally ranked #10, and I'm sure they're working very hard to be top 5, and then top 3, and then #1. But we have centers who have been there much longer than us. They're not in the top 20, top 30 as well. So that was vertical number one. How we have reached what we have to do. Vertical number 2, which is very important, which is culture and mindset, and then how you integrate together. Because a lot of people don't pay attention to the culture nuances. It's very, very important. When you come and do a business in UAE, it's not transactional. I had the benefit to work in Europe. I was in Citibank for 15 years, so I was looking after the Citibanks in Europe. I was appointed shortly for Citi CEO over there, in Romania, by the way. I left because I wanted to go Islamic banking from faith perspective. So it's all about relationship. It's all about building trust. When you build the trust, then you build a relationship, then you'll be able to do business. And that's paramount. That means things takes time. But when it takes time, then it's just on a proper, solid infrastructure we build it. When you do that, what does it lead you to? You know, in the UN, there are 196 nationalities or countries being listed so far. We're more than 200. So we're more than the UN, right? So when you open up your business over here, you have a pool of talents available over here, which is diverse in culture. You're able to recruit them, and you actually can have access to any nationality and mindset and culture. And you're able to take them to the global arena if you want to expand your business, and that helps a lot, which is very, very, very important. Regulation is the key. Any country you go to, first thing you look at, what are the regulation or regulators tells you to do, and how do you carry out your businesses. But what happened over a period of time, decades, centuries, regulation do not cope up with the changes in the world, whether it's related to circular economy or digital economy or any level of that matter. So what happens? So regulators are actually disconnected from the world realities. So that's making it very difficult for you to do any business and carry out your businesses. This is completely different over here. We've created many sandboxes, and particularly regulatory sandboxes over here, to make sure that we're coping up with all the advancement happening globally. I'll mention a few examples. When blockchain happened, People said, okay, blockchain is very important, but we had, of course, no regulation of that. Cryptocurrency happened, we have no regulation of that. We were the first globally to start a committee on blockchain. And I'll give you an example of how do we start committees. This is not a governmental body, by the way. So government, of course, makes sure the committee is established, but then the stakeholders are the federal governments, state government, which is your respective cities who govern this, and also your private sectors, and more importantly, academia. So we bring all the subject matter expert into that committee, and whenever there's a challenge, we ask the subject matter expert, how do we go about introducing laws for example, blockchain, or for AI that matter, or for digital good for that matter. And that's why we created something called VAR, which is Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority, which actually mandate that. And whatever the law we have kept over there, they've kept on evolving for the betterment of businesses and the people themselves. So regulation is the key, but the most important thing for regulation, they have to cope up with the industry changes and nuances. If it doesn't, then it's pulling you back. Some countries, they're very strong in putting up regulation. And I've worked with those regulations. We were trying to approve the 5th lane in London Heathrow Airport. 20 years it took us. We didn't approve it because the regulation didn't allow us. That tells you it's a stifle your innovation. And examples are many, what I can mention from my short stint in Europe as well. Key important to do. The third vertical of, I call them shifting sands of any country of UAE, is your digital. Why digital is very important? Because you want things to be accessible for you quickly. And if you're not digital, you're not going to access it very quickly. You're going to rely on papers, you're going to go physically to offices and get things done. And not only access it what you call seamlessly, but also access it globally from wherever you are. Not necessarily in Dubai or Abu Dhabi or any other Emirates in Sharjah in the UAE, but also globally you can access your business, and that's important. That's why we have given a lot of importance when it comes to digital transformation. Of course, whenever we talk about digital transformation, we talk about, before that, I always say there are two key trends going on globally. Of course, there are more, but these are the two most important ones, and you can actually put them all together into the same trend. The first trend is the digital transformation, which is digital economy, and I help work on that. Now, digital economy, anything we talk about AI, big data, digital twins, IoTs, quantum computing, cloud computing, CBDCs, which will be coming very, very soon, where you have a digital currency from your central banks, and so forth. And then you have another important trend that we're working on with all the countries and locally over here is your circular economy. How do we transition from a linear economy where we take material from the resource, from the earth, and we make product out of them, and then we dispose them? That means they're very linear. So we want to make sure that we change this formula, this is the global trend going on, how we make them a number of times in the economy, i.e. you use the same resources available for you as much as possible, so you don't waste resources. Now in the past, if you speak to your earlier generations, I'm sure your parents have been very circular in nature. They would not waste anything. It's just when you get abundant of wealth, which has happened to us as well, we become very kind of wasting a lot of things, whether it's water, food, or garment, and so forth. So we have derailed, we need to go back to that. And digital economy will actually fuel the development of your circular economy, which is your green economy, renewable energies, your EV vehicles, and so forth. So it's very important that we invest in technology to make progression in any other sectors that we would like to make. Of course, when we talk about anything to do with digital, AI is the mainstream. But before that, we want to share with you what was the foundation, where the seed of digital journey started. A lot of people probably don't know that story. We wanted to transform government to e-government. And His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, who's the Vice President of UAE and the ruler of Dubai, in 1995, he took all his $1 and -1 and -2 and -3 to a Jumeirah Beach Hotel. And he said, look, all of them. He said, today we're going to have a plan where we're going to transform our government to e-government. Right? We no more what we call people coming in. We want to enable them for them to work on a digital platform. So we're going to connect governments. And we will do that in 5 years. Those of you who had the chance to speak to someone working in government and making government electronic, you should know the challenge. It's just challenging to do that. Trust me, a lot of countries I work with, I advise them in terms of becoming the journey to become for their digital journeys. Very challenging because you cannot unite all the government offices. But His Highness was very clear on his vision. We want to get that. You know what was his message? By the way, it's available on YouTube till now. You can probably hear it. He told his people, The journey is going to be tough. Whoever's with us, we welcome you on board. Whoever cannot, we thank you for your service, but resign. Blunt. No sugarcoating. He does not have time to sugarcoat things. He's still the same. And that's why we have achieved what we have achieved. So that was the seed of technology. Then we said, okay, we're going to build, we want to make sure that we are the smartest cities in the world, and that smart city concept came in. And then 3x and 5x and 10x concept came in. What do we mean by 3, 4, 5x, 10x? If the world is growing at the speed of 1x, we would like to grow at 10x. And this is how we're going to grow, and this is how we have been actually marching very, very forward. Starting this year, AI is mandatory to be taught in all public schools. Of course, they have reskilled the teachers first of all. We did the same thing in my school. I sit at the board of, I chair of a couple of boards of schools. I sit on the board of Harry-Potter University. We're trying to do the same thing among many other things. Of course, blockchain I talked about, and digital twin I talked about, but that important topic is now the entire government of Dubai. They are about 25 government entities within Dubai. There are about 1,900 services. They're on blockchain. Earlier, when blockchain was not there, you have to go and update your records at every single entity. You know what cumbersome activity it is? So your records might be showing in Dubai Economic Department with certain data, but you go to the Dubai Chamber of Commerce, it could be some different data, because it could be all not updated. You don't have to do that. They're all connected at the back end. The blockchain, you update once, it updates everybody else, and you're able to access. So if you, for example, if you go to a private clinic, you go to a government clinic, both have access to your medical records. If you go to schools, if your kids are studying over here, they have certificate, they all have access. Every school have access to your records, your children records. So that's anybody. Now, that takes us to something very important to build. How do we get cities interconnected, which is the concept of smart cities? Of course, this is a short video clip on how cities, smart cities, going to be in UAE, which is going to be making sure that we are completely seamless in everything we do. And of course, we had an initiative launched by His Highness Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed Al Maktoum, the Crown Prince of Dubai, the Minister of Defense. How do we become paperless? And of course, that got achieved a couple of years ago. So if you go to government service today, you're not allowed to take any paper. It has to be all electronic. I believe you're the lawyer. That's why you're smiling? Okay. At least I can read your body language. All right. So now smart cities concept, for us to make that happen, the building blocks need to be there. We talked about regulation are very, very important for it to be done. The investment that we need to do in the R&D, it's paramount. The average investment done by countries, it's about on average 1.6 globally. We invest 2% from our GDP. That's large. Don't look at the points for being very small. It's a very large amount, actually, percentage. It's very important to build the infrastructure. So, you know, I'm in a banker for 29 years. I'm a software engineer. I used to build games in my teens, so I understand the challenges behind doing this. Sometimes the bank becomes so big, they're not able to cope up with innovation and bring new things. So what do? The bank says, okay, let's add up the new satellites, or you say, I will scrap everything up. I'll build all over again, which is going to be meaningful for another 10 or 20 years. So you make that investment. And this is what Dubai has done. So the entire thing you see in Dubai, there is a digital twin for that. Dubai Airport, there is a digital twin for that, meaning you have a virtual replica of Dubai airports, and all the other big entities, government entities, in the virtual world. So they actually do an R&D over there to make sure the cost is less. Once they see this is a perfect model, they bring it into reality. And that's something what we're trying to do for our factories, also the building digital twin for them, and building the predictive and AI model for them, because we're expanding both locally and internationally. It's important to make sure the three ethos we also live by, which are very paramount. Any industry we would like to develop, whether it is, we talk about digital economy or circular economy, it's important that the government first to adopt it. You know, usually government does not lead in the rest of the world. It's the public sector, the private sector leads. Here is mandated the government should lead, and the private sectors would actually follow, making it easier for private sector to follow, because the government is making it easier for us. The second thing we do, we say we make an economy out of it, i.e., if it's a new economy, after government adopted it, we need to make sure that there's a business case behind it. The private sector will also utilize it and make economical benefit out of that. Third, it's important for us to share the successes of what we've learned with our partners, both locally, regionally, and internationally. Why? Because we believe collaboration is the key for success. What's the use of me having a trade thing electronically here, but when I go to Romania, go to US, go to China, it's great. I have only achieved one leg of the transaction. I want to make sure I share whatever I have, what we have in the country with all the other countries so they can also benefit and they do it. So this is very important. Of course, without having an ecosystem for startups, SMEs, which we have recognized very well, things don't move on. SMEs constitute anything between 60% of any GDP of countries, by the way. In UAE, family businesses and SMEs about, again, 60 to 70%. In terms of workforce, they're 70%. So we realized that in the Ministry of Economy, and we started working with them and shall share the program. So that's why now UAE is ranked 3rd globally when it comes to e-government, because of what we have achieved. I think we should be higher, but whatever the ranking is, Let's stick with the ranking for the global things. Of course, when it comes to AI, excluding China because they're bad to get the chips. From infrastructure perspective, we're ranked 2nd after the US in terms of AI investment. We've pledged about $1.4 trillion on investment, anything to do with technology, and headlines has made in the last few months. $1.4 trillion. Do you know what's the GDP of UAE? Anybody want to guess? It's not an exam. It's not a test. You can throw a number. Nobody knows? Oops. All right. It's close to $600 billion. A little less, by the way. It's $580 billion we'll touch this year, hopefully. Imagine we're spending much more than the GDP of the country. That's not a joke. Where's the fund coming from? Sovereign wealth fund. Why? Because we know the value of investing in infrastructure of innovation. Paramount. That's why we're number 2 when it comes to AI investment. Of course, our goal is to be number 1 in AI, a leading country globally to make that happen. Of course, we need to make sure we're very careful when we talk about AI, because there's a lot of reports talks about people will be jobless and so forth and so forth. So how are we addressing that? And of course, privacy is an issue as well. Ghazali Sheikh Hamdan, again, who is the Crown Prince of Dubai, Minister of Defense, his ethos are very clear. He said we need to make sure that we have the right use cases for AI to be there. It's just we're not jumping on the bandwagon of making AI happen. And by the way, AI is not new. We heard about AI probably in November 2022 when 𝐶𝐶GPT was launched. Foremost to be correct. Yes, AI actually predated 1648. And I'm telling you from experience, because I used to develop AI models back in 1999. I'm doing my 2nd doctorate in AI itself, in sustainability. So AI is there for a very long time. We used to build models a very long time ago, but it became very prominent now because it became very accessible in a way that we as laymen can use it. You know when did we appoint the first Minister of AI? 2017. And when did the AI came in? 2022 end, November. What does it tell you? There's a huge foresight from the leadership, knowing what's the future going to be, appointing a minister 5 years before AI become prominent globally. A UAE minister for AI. Many other things, of course, but that's one example because we're talking about now technology and AI. That tells you how the leadership continue to think in the future. So, like their fathers, the progeny, the son, are doing the same thing. Both the Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, the president of UAE, and Sheikh Mohammed Rashid continue to do the same thing, the ruler of Dubai. And we need to make sure that the AI is used for the goods of the people, not to eliminate them. Human has to be in the center of any development we do. That's why we reskilling all the ministers, all the government officials, and the people, and now in the education system, which I mentioned a while ago, we mandated that. So that's why UAE was the first country to launch an AI university, which offers a postgraduate and doctorate degree, first university, which is called Mohammed bin Zayed AI University. This number is a little bit old. There are many things have changed from that time.
Don't stop on my behalf.
Not at all. I'm continuing. So AI University, and AI we know it's going to be talk of the town because we believe the value which is there in the Middle East for the AI comes, it's huge. And UAE would like to take a leading role of it, and not only that, but also make sure that they grab everything possible. It's a market opportunity of $320 billion in the Middle East. We would like to capture that, and you've seen what we're trying to do. Again, I'll mention this, which is very important to me, and echoing why it is important. Whatever we've achieved, there are 2 key successes for that. It's leadership of having a clarity and vision and the execution power. In the corporate world, we call it when the rubber meets the road. So without doing these two traits, you will not be able to move forward. This is something important for me to talk about and touch upon because that is where probably it touches you because you're coming to open your businesses over here. This is where the ecosystem was developed. How do we support new businesses, entrepreneurs who would like to come up and open business over here? So we talked about it and we launched something called DIFC Launchpad, but now it's called the DIFC Innovation Hub. It was launched back in April 2022 and it's on the premise of bringing venture studios concept. Now I had the benefit to work a venture studio concept back in 1993 in my Citibank career. But the actual name of it actually got coined in 1995 by an American entrepreneur called Bill Ross, still alive, doing some entrepreneurship. And this is something you probably heard about, the VC concept, accelerator, incubators. This is much better than that. Why? Because the success factor in this is 30% much more successful. So the vision was, in 5 years, we'll bring 20 venture studios, which will help us to build companies, 200 companies, 100 companies will scale up in 100 years, and of course, 5 will become unicorn, meaning those will have a valuation of $1 billion and above. And of course, 8,000 jobs will be created, and so much of funds will be collected. In the first year itself, not 5 years, 200 companies, we actually crossed 238 companies got established because of venture studios. That tells you how important this model is. I mentioned it has a 30% success rate. Of course, 5% of people got adjusted with this become unicorn and 30% successful exit by IPO. Of course, we wanted to transform the UAE businesses. We knew that we're digitizing our economy. The Ministry of Economy launched a digital roadmap, a real roadmap back in April 2022. Many things happened in 2022, by the way. And we said, okay, how do we help the family businesses to transform as well, to become digital? They built the brick and mortar, which is fantastic, but now they have to build businesses in the digital way we need to do. So the idea came in along with Ministry of Economy that we need to make sure that we help the new generation of these family businesses to become digital in nature, because they are digital in nature, but how to build the business in digital nature. So we launched a program, the first cohort graduated 2 years ago, on helping them to become venture studios compliant, understanding that. And of course, ideas came out from that. It was a 5-month program whereby we told them, this was the graduation ceremony, so these family businesses came in and they presented their ideas over there and they were all very well welcome. Now when they go back to their family businesses, they will transform their family businesses to become digital because of the training they got. So it was theoretical training and a practical training where we supported them to make sure that they come up with businesses in a digital way, which they have launched. So that was how the government is working hand in hand with private sector. So what is the way forward and for us to move forward from here and keep that in ourselves? It's paramount while you're thinking to develop business over here, you give a global perspective. And that's what we try to do as a government to enable that happen. It's important for us to be agile in our learning. So we continuously learn all the time. Because with the space of AI being there, and so many technologies, things are changing so rapidly and so fast. You cannot catch up in 3 weeks a day, I'm not joking. I evaluate 5 companies on a daily basis. I'm not able to do that. So I'm trying to use tools to help me to do that thing. And many other things. And we're organically expanding. So that means there's a huge challenge on time on us to do things. So keep that in mind when you do it. But it's all about collaboration. If you do not collaborate locally, regionally, internationally, as I mentioned earlier, you'll only be clapping yourself. That means it's no joy of saying that we're successful. What about the others? So that this lending hand is very important. That's why UAE is respected globally by all the leaders I can think of. And I met yesterday, I was telling you about some amazing gentlemen from amazing countries. They were echoing the same thing of what we're trying to do over here. However, I also remind ourselves and also tell you 2 messages from here. This was our humble beginning. We don't forget that. We come from here. We started on the sand, with Camel being there, sitting on the ground, on the sand, drinking coffee, eating dates. We don't forget that. We always make sure that we're humble. So whatever we've achieved, thank God for that. And we continue to do more and more. The other important thing is, you see in all the pictures, His Highness, the founder of the country, 𝐶𝐶, has been connected with people. And this is what our leadership is trying to do all the time, even today. They were very connected to people. When he looked at the desert, he did not look at sand back then. he looked at the opportunity of making things happen, the future that he was dreaming of then, which is living it today now. We're enjoying it. So UAE is a testament that it's not lack of capital. Dubai never had a drop of oil for the last 20, 30 years, by the way. Maybe new to you. Abu Dhabi has, the capital has a lot of oil, but Dubai doesn't have oil. So Dubai made it. So it's no lack of capital or lack of resources, by the way. It's all about having a clarity of vision, having execution power, and building that trust. So trust in UAE, it's our currency. Safety is our currency. And our technology is the mandate from the government that we need to make sure everything is very digital. So you can see now we have built a pathway for all the international investment to come and invest in UAE and collaborate with us. So on you to use that pathway. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. It was a great pleasure and honor to have all this, and I think for all the Romanian entrepreneurs here, preparing to enter on the market is very clear now, and you presented very well the driving forces behind Emirati becoming a very successful business environment here.
Sure.
And one of the most attractive, and one of the most, for us, all of us, is very new, but yeah, you presented us what is behind. We have some questions here,
Sure.
and if we have behind people which want some questions, but before I receive some questions, and I would like maybe 2-3 questions left.
You can ask as many you want.
Okay, yes. For foreign investors, where do you see real opportunities emerging in sustainability or renewable energy here?
Of course, when it talks about circular economy, that's part of it. Renewable energy is a paramount for the country. Some few statistics. We are heavily invested when it comes to renewable energy. Masdar City has been established 16 years ago. Masdar City invests in renewable energy, not only locally, but internationally. They have more than 200 projects were active once upon a time. I used to be very good in drawing maps, despite being a mathematician from my mother's side and from my father's side, but I was still good in drawing maps. They taught me a few, countries, or I should say islands. I never knew they were existed because of the collaboration Masdar did with those countries and establishing further renewable energy power. So renewable is a paramount for us as well, because we would like to transition from the fossil fuel to the next. His Highness Mohammed Zayed actually, almost 10 years ago, he said, we would like to celebrate the last barrel of oil to go out. That's mean the pathway is very easy. I wouldn't say easy, but it's like paved for you to come and invest anything to do with the renewable energy. We just opened up one of our plants this beginning of this year, where we take a certain waste and we convert it to biofuel, which is one of the largest in the country, probably in the region as well. We're also working on another energy sources, which is how do we produce hydrogen, which is very expensive, but we're trying to find an economical way to produce that, and along with graphene. So for sure, the regulations are there to support you to start with those kind of processes.
Thank you very much, I appreciate. If there are any questions?
Thank you very much.
It is open and I can hear.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And it's not a question, I just want to add that regarding the SEPA agreements, the UAE and the European Union started the negotiations on June,
Sure.
like in this year. So if this would be finalized, it will be a huge inbound for the Romanian companies.
It will be finalized, inshallah. Trust me on it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Other questions? Any other questions? Because I have another one. For all of us as entrepreneurs, I think this environment is quite, and it's totally new. The fast-moving things, the multicultural. For us as beginners entrepreneurs here in this environment, what are two things we should take in mind as resilience?
Understand the mindset of the people you want to work with. If you want to do a partnership, build that trust why you want to build that partnership. Select your partners correctly. I'm not saying nobody will try to deceive you. Of course, you will always have outliers, but everybody's interest over here to help you and support you. Why? Because it's ingrained in us, in the DNA of the people, is to shake hands and help and work with you. But first of all, it's important that you understand the regulation, understand the people, and why these companies or family businesses you've selected to do business with then probably can go to the next and third and fourth step. So it's not transactional, as I mentioned earlier, it's all about building that trust first of all. Once you're able to cross that, and trust me, when people start calling into your businesses, that's mean you probably crossed the, what you call the bridge on building the trust. That's mean you're on the right path.
Thank you very much. And another question from what we have here. Okay.
Thank you so much. I heard you saying that regulation is the key at one point. How important is the prediction in legislation and the setting up this business environment? Is this the key also here?
Very nice point, by the way. And that, I'm smiling because I have mentioned this in one of my panels on the Ministry panel about having a predictive model, AI model for regulations. Meaning, and I mentioned that, of course, all the excellency was sitting over there. If we put regulations, we want to make sure the regulations are really coping up on them. And that's also on YouTube, by the way. You can watch it, me saying that. I thought, look, we need to come up with a predictive model for making sure the regulations are meaningful, are helping us, or should we change? Roughly 8 months ago, they launched AI predictive model for regulation, saying we would like to make sure AI will check all the regulation that we have today, whether they're working or not working, based on the new realities that the market offers us all the time. We are coping up with that or not. So they are testing it all the time, whether these regulations are supposed to be there, or some amendment need to be there. Apart from the committees I mentioned, there are subcommittees, whether it's AI, whether it's blockchain, whether it's circular economy. We had it 3 weeks ago, a circular economy workshop with subject matter expert. We have launched 22 policies last year in the first cohort. We're adjusting 22 policies again today, but we're bringing the private sectors to work with us. So one is the AI, which is doing the predictive model in terms of to see validity of the regulation, and one is us going and touching and speaking to people and businessmen to see whether the regulation that we have today or that we're going to launch, what's the way forward for that.
Hey.
Good question.
Thank you very much. We have another question here. So, Mr. Maher, we just opened now.
It's okay. I mean, I was the night before, I was with 20 U.S. delegation companies coming in UAE. It was from 6 to 10. It was just questions.
Thank you for your presentation. We have a lot of clients in Romania which are involved into renewable energy, waste to energy, and other energy-related areas. And they would want to expand the UAE in the same sector, and they want to know where should they start. Besides opening the company and the legal part which we're handling, we want to know from business perspective where should they start, and we want to help them as well in this area because they're medium to big size company who produce a lot of money to the budget of Romania, and they would want to come here to.
Sure. If they're large enough, then my advice would be go and check the government entities who are into that. Okay? Collaborate with them. Masdar is one important element that you go and touch. DY is another one element which is in Dubai because they're building one of the largest solar panel, which is about, they've upgraded it from, or the target upgraded from 5 gigawatt to 7 gigawatt. We spoke about that in just a few conferences ago on Vertex. So if they're large enough and they're really meaningful, I would say first touch the government, speak to the government, and the government are very welcoming and talking to you. You can talk also to Dr. Sultan Jaber, the Minister of Advanced Technologies. He's the CEO apparently of EDNOC. He's the chairman of Masdar. I know people went and talked to him, and they were very welcoming. There is also a Minister of Energy is there, Suhail Mazarui, His Excellency. They can talk to them. But if they're medium-sized companies, and they're coming up with something relatively very, very new, they need to see what is that new they're bringing in, because they also need to scout the market every year. There are many companies got established over here who are already offering a lot of renewable solutions. Adabic is going on. I was supposed to be today in Abu Dhabi in Adabic, but I've canceled that panel just because of Claudia to be here to bring this home to the council. And Adabic is the largest energy and now technology summit which happens. So go and showcase as well into these conferences because you'll meet a lot of government officials over there. Collaboration will open up with them. The door will open up through these channels, by the way. And then, of course, look at from the Chamber of Commerce, whether Dubai or Abu Dhabi, the two primary one, which are the businesses are into the same sector or family office in the same sector. They will support you with that. They'll provide you a list. Then you can go and speak to them. for any collaboration that you may do with them.
Thank you very much. Karina?
Assalamu alaikum, Your Excellency. I would like to extend my deepest appreciation for your insightful speech today. And at the same time, I would like to address a question. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
What, in your opinion, what would be the role of strategy foresight in this, let's say, new arena of 20 years ahead? I would say 50, but let's keep it shorter and say 20.
We have longer than that. We have 2071, by the way.
I'm aware, but maybe for the audience.
Sure. The good thing about UAE is very transparent. Go to a website called u.ae. Very simple. U standing for United Arab Emirates. Whatever you want to do in the coming decades is clearly laid down over there. Whether it's digital economy, circular economy, food security, infrastructure, transportation. The plan is laid down very clearly. Not from now, for quite some time ago, for a number of years. Why? Because when government says we want to achieve, there's no pullback. The change and amendment would be to better it, not to stop it, unless it is a wrong decision being made, which is normal, right? So it's very clear what we want to achieve. First, 2071, we want to make sure we don't have oil. We want to make sure that we are completely reliant on renewable energy. That's why the master is there and what we have done. That's paramount, because we would like to make sure that we conserve the environment. And there's a story I'd like to share why we believe that. Not because of political thing, how globally people are politically driving the climate change, which I'm completely against. I think we should remove the politicians from this formula. It should be ran by businesses themselves only. His Highness Sheikh Zayed, the founder of the country. In 60s and 70s and 80s, he was planting trees in the desert. During his life, he planted about 150 million trees. People asked him, His Highness, why are you planting trees in the desert? And we know deserts are very good for the environment, right? They give you oxygen. It takes CO2, give you oxygen, which is very good. He said, we come from this environment, and we need to make sure that we conserve the environment. Something also related to the oil industry. When oil started coming up, the rigs were there. He was traveling between Al-Ain and Abu Dhabi, to the neighboring cities. And he would see the flare coming out from the wells. He's a layman, does not understand that. So he asked his companions, is this flare coming out good for the environment? They said, Your Highness, no. He said, I would like that to be stopped. Find a solution for me. And during this time, they found a solution. I don't know what was the solution, to be honest with you. I need to dig and find out. But then we started using it again. And now we have technology to use the flare, make a hydrogen out of it, and graphene out of it. So that's in terms of when it comes to renewable energy, 2071. We want to make sure, as you saw in some of the clips, the most smartest cities globally, the leading city globally, because we believe when we digitize things, we make people's life very, very simpler. You can access anything you want globally, not only from UAE itself. That's the second motto we have. Third is how do we make sure the businesses around us over here, they prosper in their respective industries. So we're building those industries. So that's mean connecting globally all the countries. That's why we believe we are in a race of ourselves. We're not looking who's second, who's third, who's fourth. We're not worried about that. We're not worried about competition. We're worried how can we go faster and faster from one height to another height. How do we connect with as many companies, countries possible, so everybody can benefit from it. So it's a win-win situation for everybody. These are the key things I can tell you how we want everybody to prosper in the country in the coming maybe 100 years ago.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate. I think it was, okay. It was the last question. Appreciate. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Maher. And it was such an inspiring conversation. Your awards reminded us that success here in Dubai as an entrepreneur means vision, means resilience, and collaboration. Thank you very much. And now going